You described losing or having to amputate a limb as the ultimate failure. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
Why, in your practice, other than the obvious, but sometimes that's all you can do,
Right.
and yet you still are driven to save.
Right.
Why is that the ultimate loss?
One of the odd things about how surgery has been transformed, if you think of it, the only thing that surgery really could offer in the 1700s and well into the 1800s was a successful amputation. So like during the Civil War, a lot of people have it in their mind that in the 1860s, if a musket ball or a cannonball blew someone's leg off or mostly off, everyone knew that you're going to get the saw out and hack someone's leg off. Surgery actually could maybe save someone's life under that circumstance. The mortality rate of someone during the Civil War who had a leg blown off, or just an open fracture, so say a musket ball caused an open fracture, the death rate was 80%. That is a huge number. No one going to the emergency room today with an open fracture with the bone sticking out of the skin, it's gross to think of a little bit, that they're going to die. They're thinking, when can they operate? How long will I be out? When can I go back to sports? No one's thinking they have an 80% chance of dying, but that's what an amputation used to address. So amputation was something that was powerful and curative. Well, now when we're doing an amputation, it's because the trauma is so bad, where the limb is so mangled, that it's really the only thing left. And sometimes it's because there's actually massive bone loss, massive hemorrhaging, massive muscle loss. My group is kind of unique. In Denver, I'm with 40 orthopedic surgeons in our group, and we run the trauma center at St. Anthony Hospital. It's actually the hospital in the world where a helicopter was first used, our hospital. And so to this day, we have a lot of medical helicopters coming from all the ski resorts in Colorado, all the people that are doing crazy backpacking and mountain climbing and snowboarding and on their snowmobiles. They have really severe injuries, and they chopper them in, and sometimes they're so badly injured. We've had patients who've fallen 1,000 feet and lived. A limb that sustains that kind of trauma, sometimes even with my incredible trauma partners, can't be saved. When an amputation happens, it feels like it had to be that if my trauma partners can't save a limb, I feel like it cannot be saved. But nonetheless, performing an amputation and completing the last few cuts and then handing off that limb, it's brutal. I mean, it's still just, for me, is really hard.
How have you seen the rates go down in just your, working life so far?
The rate of amputation is incredibly low now. In part because at our trauma hospital we have plastic surgeons who know how to do flap reconstruction. So you take a bit of muscle, tendon, and the arteries that feed that, and then swing it around. So depending on where the amputation has occurred, you can swing it locally, take a bit of muscle and skin and the blood vessels and swing it around. But if it's in a disadvantageous area, you can actually take a bit of latissimus, the big muscle in your back, so that muscle and the skin and the blood vessels that feed it, detach it, put it over a different part of the leg, and carefully, with the most minute surgery imaginable, sew the blood vessels and the muscles and the skin together, and it lives and it provides blood flow and nurturing life to that limb. It's just amazing. And so those are our plastic partners, combined with my trauma partners who use plates and screws and rods and frames and pins and cages to hold the limb together so it can all heal and spring back to life. It's part of the miracle of modern medicine that you can actually pull that off. We had a lady from England who was on vacation and was in a horrible car accident. And part of her arm was exposed and lost tremendous amount of bone, all the muscles, ripped her arteries and nerves. This is gruesome talk, but the doctors up in northern Colorado who saw her said, if you're gonna stay here, we're gonna have to amputate your arm. the only chance you have of saving your arm is for us to call the helicopter from St. Anthony, and we'll fly you down there, and the Panorama guys, if anyone can do it, they can save your arm.
Wow.
So my trauma partners received her, and I got the photos that night on my cell phone. I'm used to awful. That was awful. They said, we're going to try and save her arm. And they took her to the operating room like every day or two, continued washing out the wounds, saving what they could, reconnecting the blood vessels to keep her hand alive, reconnecting the nerves that had been badly injured, eventually doing skin flap operations, skin grafting. They took skin from her thigh. And after about 10 operations, she was then finally ready for my part of the operation, which is to do a total elbow replacement. I'm extremely lucky to have one of the busiest total elbow practices in the world. And a lot of it is because of our trauma center and the volume we see and my partners having me be the guy. So after their miraculous work, then I got to do a pretty complex total elbow replacement. And it's tricky when all the blood vessels and nerves have been reattached and the normal tissue planes are gone. So we did it in concert with the plastic surgeons, did her total elbow replacement, and she's done great. And, in her case, she just knew had she stayed, and it was a good hospital she came from, but they just don't have the experience that my trauma partners do. She knew she would have lost her arm. So being able to save someone's arm right now is just an incredible honor.